Section 10 of Orpheus with His Lute by W.M.L. Hutchinson. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Prometheus, Unbound. The forest was awakening from its winter sleep, and already the air was sweet with the first faint balms of spring, when Orpheus watched the ninth moon rise full-orbed, and knew that he was now to hear the last story told beside the enchanted well. Calliope would tell it, she who seemed to love him the most of all the gracious sisters, and he fell asleep with the thought that she should choose the tale for him, because she had said at first that they each had their favorite. He awoke to see her bending over him with a face of radiant joy. It seemed she had just stepped from the circle of her sisters, who were dancing hand in hand, their voices ringing with such notes of gladness as the world hears never now but in the skylark's carol. "The spring is coming," murmured the boy, still scarce awake, "and all the birds are singing because they know it. Is that why you look so glad, dearest lady?" Then all the nine gathered about him with happy laughter, and Calliope said, "Spring is coming indeed, and the woods are full of her harbingers. But sweeter tidings yet are abroad on earth this night. Prometheus is set free." "And now, sister," said Thalia, "it needs not to ask what story Orpheus will have you tell, for here is the very one Melpomene promised he should hear before he left us, and I see he longs for you to begin." Calliope met the child's eager look with a smile, and answered, "I must begin then where Melpomene's story ended, that he may understand how this great thing has come to pass." The cry that broke from Prometheus, when in the first hour of his bondage he called on the powers of earth and air and sea to bear witness against the ingrate Zeus, rolled far beyond the icy bounds of his prison, and echoed round the world like a moaning wave. At the voice of the great Titan's anguish, earth shuddered to her depths. Yet she answered not, for she had no comfort to give her son. But there were those in the cool glassy halls of ocean whom the sound reached not in vain. For the gentle ocean nymphs hovered up out of the deep, charioted in fairy shells, and softly they came gliding through middle air to the heights of Caucasus. Then they stayed their cars of translucent pearl, and Prometheus was ware of a divine fragrance as the nymphs floated downwards to his feet, wafting the scents of the sea from their amber tresses and robes of palest green. "We have heard," they sang, "we have heard thy call, Prometheus, in our coral-paven bowers. Frail are we as the foam bells, powerless to aid thee, yet we have hastened hither to mourn with thee awhile, if haply the dew of tears may bring thee some poor balm." "Weep not for me, beautiful children of ocean," answered the Titan. "It is enough that I hear your gentle voices, and feel that I am not all unpitied, nor utterly forsaken. But see, what other visitant wings his way to us, a mighty griffin. And who is this that lights down from the feathered steed? Can it be my voice has roused your ancient sire from slumber in his dim, unfathomed caves?" It was, in truth, old Ocean who stood before them, his hoar and oozy locks crowned with gold, a scepter of emerald in his hand. "Prometheus," he said, in deep, hollow tones, "compassion for a kinsman's woes has brought me on this far journey from earth's western shores. Not unmindful of the tie that binds thee and me, as offspring of the All-Mother, I come to bring thee what help I may in this evil case." "Thou canst not help me," replied Prometheus. "None the less, I praise thy kindness, aged king, and yield thee all thanks for that good intent." "Nay," said the other, "there is no plight so desperate but it may be bettered by sage counsel. Now hear me, Titan. I am one that reverences sovereign law and right supremacy, knowing that as my waves have their appointed bounds, and flowers their seasons, and the stars their changeless courses, so all things must own obedience to the power set over them. But thou, in thy overweening pride, hast defied and broken the law of our suzerain, under whom all we of a mortal race wear our crowns and wield our lesser sceptres, and for this hath he justly condemned thee to suffer. I bewail thy punishment, but I acknowledge it is merited at his hands. Do thou likewise acknowledge it, and make humble submission to Zeus, and I myself will be thine intercessor with him. Nor doubt I to obtain his gracious pardon, when he shall hear thou art penitent. Trouble not thyself, said Prometheus, with a bitter smile. The way is long to his abode, and thine old limbs will be wearied. I reck not of that, said Ocean. No faint-heart friend am I. That is well seen, for you brave much peril if you plead for a rebel, answered the Titan. Zeus will pay due honor to my age and dignity, said the old king proudly, but there came a quaver in his voice. Be not too sure of that, said Prometheus, for a young tyrant laughs at ancient rites. Have a care he do not punish thy rashness, as he has punished mine. Still hast thou forethought for others rather than thyself, retorted the other. It seems, then, I shall earn no thanks of thee if I go this errand. Deem me not thankless, eldest of the gods, said Prometheus more gently, but it avails not to talk of pardon which Zeus will no more give than I would take. I pray thee, look to thine own safety, and get thee home ere his jealous eye mark our converse. I would not that any should suffer for my sake. Are the woes not enough that the tyrant has brought already upon our kindred? Wilt thou stand like Atlas, with head and shoulders bowed forever under the burden of the massy firmament? Or like Enceladus lie crushed beneath the weight of Etna? Alas, the pangs of these my brethren rend my heart more cruelly than aught I must myself endure. I go, Prometheus, seeing that I cannot prevail with thee, said old Ocean sorrowfully, and so saying he mounted his griffin steed and went his way. But the nymphs followed not their sire, although the Titan bade them beware of lingering, lest Zeus should make them rue their pity for his foe. We are things too slight and weak to rouse his anger, they said. As well might he launch his thunderbolts at the tiny fleets of the Nautilus, or sea flowers drifting on the waves. Here will we stay till nightfall, and while the slow hours away with talk and song. Tell us, great Titan, would it not ease thine heart a little to speak of the things thou hast done for the good of man? It is but broken rumors of them that have reached our far home, and we long to know the whole. Well had the ocean maidens divined the thought that alone brought solace to Prometheus, and earnestly they listened while he unfolded all the story of the race of clay, and how for their sakes he had taken by stealth the forbidden fire, by means whereof they were become masters of life-fostering arts innumerable. He told also of the hatred of Zeus to that race from the beginning, because they had worshipped Cronos, and how he revenged on them the theft of fire by the making of Pandora. And when he ended the tale, the wondering ocean nymphs lifted up their voices, and thus they sang. How terrible is Zeus in his wrath, and how marvelous in his power! All that his deep mind devises, he brings straightway to pass, without toil, without the lifting of his hand, for he speaks the word, and it is done. Surely there is none like him among gods that have been or will be. The cunning of Cronos prevailed not against him, neither the might of the Titan brethren, nor Prometheus the all-wise. Of an ancient house are we, and love not what is new. But we see that with Zeus none may strive, for he is become lord over all, and the former things are passed away. Then said Prometheus, Nevertheless, a day is coming when this Zeus shall be humble, who is now so tyrannous of soul. Such a marriage will he compass for himself as shall work his downfall, and the high places of the heavens shall know him no more. That doom none among the mortals can avert, save I myself, who know what marriage it is which must bring him low. Ay, and I know what manner of adversary it shall raise up for him, even one armed with a mightier weapon than the thunderbolt, who shall hurl the usurper from the ancient throne of Cronus to dwell in nether darkness forever. Let Zeus triumph then while he may. Let him exult over my torments, and boast himself all-conquering. Brief shall be the day of his dominion, and when that is past, he shall no more laugh, but weep. Yea, then shall he learn how widely sundered are the lots of ruler and slave. The daughters of Ocean heard these words with trembling, and made answer, Alas, Prometheus, will not curb thy haughty spirit? Refrain thy tongue, we beseech thee, lest Zeus hear these menaces, and they add fuel to the fire of his wrath. What boots it to threaten him in whose power thou liest thus helpless? Be it yours to pay him lip service, said Prometheus in a tone half tender, half disdainful, for to all of female mould might is ever right. But to me, knowing what I know, Zeus and all that he can do are as dust in the balance. Slay me he cannot, and the worst he can inflict on one immortal you behold, methinks, already. Ah, who comes now? It is the young Hermes, his messenger, sent doubtless to learn the import of what Zeus has overheard. Even as he spoke, the golden-sandaled herald of Zeus alighted at his feet and stood poised on tiptoe, waving his wand of office. Hear, thou fire-stealer, he cried, the king of gods bids thee declare straightway what marriage it is that threatens him with peril. Speak plainly, thou wert best. Zeus loves not riddles, nor those that deal in them. Insolent hireling, answered the Titan, well dost thou ape the pompous bluster of thine upstart lord, as is ever the wont of thy kind. Go, tell the new-made tyrant that I set him at defiance. No outrage shall wring from my lips the word that would save him, and never will he learn the secret until his own hand frees Prometheus from these bonds. Is this plain enough to please him? Begone then with thine answer, for I waste not more words on servile ears. Dearly shalt thou pay for those thou hast now uttered, bold rebel, said Hermes, the hot color mounting to his brow, and with that he turned him to the nymphs, and curtly bade them flee upon the instant, lest the imminent doom of Prometheus should overtake them also. But the children of Ocean only gathered closer about the Titan, and fearlessly the eldest made reply. Hermes, thou dost not counsel well. That be far from us to forsake our friend in his dark hour. Rather will we share whatever doom Zeus sends him than play so base a part. And do thou hold thy peace, for never wilt thou persuade us thereto. Naught have we in such abhorrence as disloyalty of soul. Thereat Hermes took his upward way with the speed of an arrow, and scarcely was he lost to sight when darkness covered the noonday sky, and thunder, peal on peal, rolled among the crags, answered from underground by the hollow roar that bodes the earthquake. Deeper grew the gloom, until the lightning flashes showed but as flaming rifts in a wall of solid blackness, and now the earth shook with horrible upheaval, and louder than any thunder came the crash of falling precipices. Terror locked the lips of the ocean maidens. Dizzily they clung together and strained their eyes in vain for a last sight of Prometheus. It seemed he must be so close beside them. And yet they heard his voice, as from a distance uplifted in agonized entreaty. But not to his tormentor. The name of Zeus mingled not with that prayer. It was on the name of Earth, the mother and consoler, Earth, who takes at last all sufferers to her bosom, that her son called out of the horror of great darkness. And then all was still. Tempest and earthquake had done their work, and with their passing light dawned again, revealing the changes they had wrought upon the face of the mountains. Gone was the glen of rocks. A mighty chasm had yawned at the very feet of the ocean nymphs, dividing them from the chained Titan. And the spot whereon they stood was now a pinnacle of the hills, whence they could barely descry a form they knew for his, swinging, it seemed, from the ledge of a vast cliff that rose sheer from the further side of the gulf. Even as they looked, an eagle swooped with famished scream upon that writhing figure. More they endured not to behold, but fled, sickened at heart, to the sheltering deeps. The suns of 1,000 years had risen and set ere those untrodden peaks saw other visitants than the insatiable winged hound of Zeus, forever haunting his immortal prey. Then, in the destined hour, came one not borne on airy car, but toiling sturdily upwards, no heaven-dweller, but a child of man. This traveller had a lion's skin girt about his stalwart body, and a quiver slung from his shoulders, and he carried a mighty bow. No sooner marked he the eagle, where it circled slowly in air above Prometheus, than he launched an arrow from the bowstring with the full strength of his sinewy arms, and so true an aim that the shaft flew a league and more straight to the eagle's heart. The great bird fell as falls a stone into the chasm below, and the archer pressed forward till, by dint of clambering, he stood beside it, and gazed awestruck on the face of the cliff and him that hung there in chains. "I know thee, Heracles," said the deep voice of the prisoner, "thou wanderer by land and sea, thou strong tower of those that suffer wrong. Much hast thou deserved of man, and now thy great heart has brought thee by perilous ways to succor the immortal, whose woes are sung and told in every land. But though thou hast slain the eagle that preyed upon my heart, thou canst not deliver me from these bonds." "All-wise Prometheus," answered Heracles, "it is not hidden from thee that Zeus himself is beholden to me for a service I did him when he and his warred of late with the earth-born giants, and an oracle foretold that the gods should not prevail without help of a mortal. With these arrows I slew Alcyoneus, hugest of their foes, and for that Zeus has promised to hear every prayer of mine with favor. Now will I ask him to show thee, nay, not mercy, for that is for cravens, but justice." Then did Zeus vouchsafe that Heracles should plead the cause of Prometheus in full assembly of the gods. And he called Themis, daughter of Earth, to be judge between himself and the Titan, forasmuch as that goddess is the guardian of the everlasting laws of righteousness. Now, when both Zeus and Heracles had spoken, Themis gave this sentence from the judgment seat: "Prometheus can never make full satisfaction for his transgression, seeing that he is by nature immortal, and naught but death can atone for the breaking of a law made in heaven. Neither can any mortal pay that price for him, because the life of a mortal is not his own, but forfeit to death when his little race is run. But if one who is immortal by gift of the gods, and not by birthright, will freely yield up his immortality, he it is, and he alone, who may die in the stead of Prometheus." When they heard this, all the gods were very sorrowful, for it seemed to them a thing impossible that any in earth or heaven should renounce the gift of immortality. But Heracles betook him to a great and wooded mountain that is called Pelion, and sought out Chiron the centaur. Now the centaurs are a folk of double nature, having the form of a man down to the middle, and the form of a horse below, and a wild life they lead, ranging the forests and the hills, without laws and without knowledge, like the beasts that perish. But Chiron was far unlike the rest. From his youth he had loved wisdom and peace, and to him the gods had given immortality for this reward. This gentle centaur was well known to Heracles, who, to his sore grief, had wounded him by misadventure in a fray with his savage kinsfolk. Nor could the wound be healed, for the arrows of Heracles were dipped in the deadly venom of Hydra, that 100-headed snake he slew erewhile. So Chiron had ever since languished in his cavern dwelling. "I am weary of my life," said he, when Heracles had told him the judgment of Themis, "and even were I not, how could I lay it down better than in redeeming noble Prometheus? Now let death take me when he will, for cheerfully do I yield up my immortality into the hands that gave it." Thus Chiron paid the debt of justice for Prometheus, but the life he gave was not then claimed of the Fates, nor until long after, for grateful Earth sent forth a potent herb whereby his wound was healed, and she gave him knowledge of all simples and the virtues of every plant and flower, so that he became the wisest of physicians. And then were Zeus and Prometheus reconciled at last, the king of gods having loosed the Titan's fetters with his own hand. Then was there such joy in heaven as had not been from the foundation of the world. In that hour of peace and goodwill, Prometheus told, unasked, the secret on which hung the fate of Zeus. "There is one among the goddesses," he said, "whose lot in marriage shall be to bear a son mightier than his father. It is of wedlock with her that Zeus must beware, for a son mightier than such a sire would have power illimitable, and make himself lord of the world by lifting of a finger. Yet, because her beauty casts a glamour over all that look on it, Zeus will seek to take her for his bride. The heaven-dwelling gods have not yet beheld this world's desire, and her name must not be told them until the day of her appearing. Therefore I will utter it in secret to Themis, daughter of Earth, who shall reveal it at the destined hour. For I myself go hence, having seen the travail of my soul, even the redemption of man out of his helpless misery. Farewell, Olympians all, and may such peace be upon you as waits Prometheus after his long pain in the far islands of Elysium." "This very night, my Orpheus," said Calliope after a pause, "this very night the ransomed Titan has entered into the peace of those happy isles, for joy whereof not we only, but all the immortals keep high festival. Nay, there is joy in all the world, because evil is overcome of good, and the long reign of hate is over. And now, dear one, you have heard the last of our 9 wonder stories, and for a long, long while you will not see us again. But tonight there must be no sadness of farewell. Lean your little head on my shoulder. Yes, let me hold you close this once, as though you were my own tired child, and we will sing you asleep." So Orpheus rested in her tender arms, and while drowsiness weighed down his eyelids, he heard once again the song of the 9, as it were the song of nightingales, and through the lullaby the low voice of Calliope spoke still in words like these: "Thus is begun the making of a minstrel, but he, our fosterling, must learn other lessons than ours, and make a music we know not in the days to come. Yet always the echoes of our singing shall linger in his ears, and all he has heard beside our forest well shall live in his remembrance by the virtue of this charm." Then, as it seemed to the child, 2 tears fell dewy soft on his closed eyes, and with that his slumber deepened into trance, and he knew no more. But whether those were tears indeed, or sprinkled water of the well of memory, is unknown to the teller of this tale. End of Prometheus Unbound. Read by Mark Harrington. Framingham, Massachusetts.